Marketing That Works is the podcast for business owners who want to move their brand forward so that they can bring in more sales and clients. I'm Danielle R, and I'm bringing you what I know from more than 12 years of experience in traditional and online marketing. I have created marketing strategies for businesses of all sizes, from multi-million-dollar corporations to early-stage online businesses. Remember, some marketers chase fads. I believe in mastering the fundamentals. Do your ideal clients realize you're talking to them? You spend so much time coming up with posts that are going to be attention grabbing. You spend time coming up with unique messaging that showcases what type of coach you are, that highlights what working with you would be like, posts that show personality. But people might not realize that you're actually talking to them. People might not realize that you are the person that they need to work with next. Today, we're diving into how your people might not even realize that you're describing them in your marketing, even when you feel like you are. Get ready to take notes, because if you've been feeling like your messaging just hasn't been hitting, your content's not getting you the clients you want, this is going to be an episode that's going to clear up so much for you. So here's the thing. As a coach, you are so good at quickly spotting your clients' problems. If you're a life coach and someone says that they are so tired and don't have the energy to go out with friends anymore, I bet you can pinpoint in 2 minutes exactly what someone needs to start doing. Or if you're a system specialist, I bet that you can name one thing that will save a business owner hours of time. Honestly, you are that good. You can zero in on the root cause of a problem, no problem. But the issue is, when you create content, your ideal client doesn't always realize that the problem you're identifying is their problem. And that's because you're doing these 3 things. You're mislabeling their pain points, you're mislabeling their qualifications, and you're mislabeling their dreams. Now, before you get defensive, let me explain. When I say mislabeling, I simply mean stating something different than what your people would describe, than what your people would say. So let's start with mislabeling pain points. Now, being able to describe the situation someone is having is more than half the battle in marketing. When you create content, the standard you want to go for is someone saying or thinking, "You got me," or "No one has been able to describe my issue as clearly as you have." That's what you're going for. And if you still need to get clear on understanding your people's problem, go back to my 3-part series starting with episode 25. I really get into that in those 3 episodes. But when it comes to pain points, as someone who's worked with a good amount of clients, you start to pick up and see patterns, and you realize people tend to fall into certain categories. And in your marketing, you start using that language. The problem is that your person wouldn't describe their problem the way you're describing it. Now, you're talking about the same thing. You have a solution for them, but if the people you want to work with don't recognize themselves in your marketing, they won't be sure that you are the one to help them. Let's say you're a career coach and the core of your marketing is talking about nailing interviews. But the people in your audience think they are great at interviews. They make it to the final round, but they don't end up getting the position. And they think that their problem is not having a particular type of experience. They get beat out by someone who had a more senior role or worked in the field for longer. You, as a career coach, knows that this is something that can be easily solved with better interview skills. But if that's not what your person thinks they need, they will overlook it. You have to understand how your people label themselves. If this same career coach talked about helping people who get looked over after making it to the final interview finally get an offer, the person you're talking to is going to stop in their tracks and start listening to what it is you have to say. Here's the thing, the advice you're going to give is the exact same. But what you've done is you've given it the proper label, a label that your ideal client identifies with. So how do you know if you have a mislabeling of pain points problem? You'll get questions in your DMs or questions on sales calls saying, "Well, I don't know if you can help with this or not." Or you'll hear something like, "I know you help these types of people, but would I be a good fit?" If you hear that, You have a pain point mislabeling problem. And one of the things I do with my one-on-one clients is help them to go back and identify where they can be more clear, how you and your audience can clearly be on the same page so that the right people will read your content and know that it's specifically for them. Now, we went over mislabeling pain points. Let's talk about another area that's easy to overlook and is a reason why your content isn't converting. You're mislabeling your client's qualifications. This one at first seems a little weird. I mean, you would think that someone would know their own qualifications. But like how in the pain points example, someone wouldn't describe their problems the way that you would, some people in your audience don't view themselves the same way that you do. I was talking to a client of mine the other day, and she realized that her clients don't see themselves as experts, which is interesting because she positions herself as someone who helps experts share their expertise in thought leadership. She was talking to me about one of the clients that she works with and how this one client taught at an Ivy League school, has been in her field for nearly 2 decades, and it helps advise other people. But this woman didn't view herself as an expert. Now, I can go on a whole other tangent about how women, particularly Black women, because of course we're talking about a Black woman here, don't see themselves as experts. But if your people don't see themselves that way, your marketing and messaging won't hit, or it won't hit as strongly as it could. And the same can be true if you're, say, a business coach who works with people who've run their business for at least 5 years to help them scale to get more clients. You could potentially get someone that says, well, I've technically run my business for that long, but I still feel like a beginner. I don't feel like I'm the business owner that has 5 years worth of experience. And what's going to happen is this person will wonder if your coaching would be for them, or wonder if they should start somewhere else before working in your particular program. Identifying how your people would actually describe themselves is so crucial to your marketing actually working, to it actually calling in the people you want to work with. And you might be thinking, well, I'm working with the people I want to work with now, so this isn't a problem for me. But I want you to ask yourself, are you calling in these people with the regularity that you want? Are you really getting the sales calls at the consistency that you want? And with a problem like this, people tend to think, oh, okay, maybe I have a niche problem. If I'm not calling in the right people, maybe I should change my niche. Really, you simply need to get better at describing the people you want to work with. Understanding how they describe themselves, the qualifications that they have, and the identities that they hold will make your marketing so much more effective. So we talked about mislabeling pain points, and we've talked about mislabeling qualifications. The third issue we need to cover is mislabeling desires. Now, if your messaging isn't quite landing, it could be because you're talking about desires that you think your audience has, rather than the actual desires that they're craving. And this really can have 2 forms. First, simply not describing the desire your people have. And second, only describing their long-term goals, but never talking about their urgent, have to solve today goals. The first one is simple. You have to be talking about your people's desires as they would talk about it. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was saying all these business programs keep talking about, oh, make sure that you can work on part-time hours and all this other stuff. And she was like, that is not a desire of mine. I just want to make more money and hit these income goals. Talking about a desire that people actually have. That's going to be the key of getting people to actually listen to what it is that you have to say. And the second thing is that you're actually talking too much about long-term goals and never addressing today goals. Like, let's say you're a business coach and you know your clients need systems to avoid burnout and to achieve long-term success. But when you speak to that, they might think, that sounds good, but right now, I just need to hit my revenue goals for the month so I can pay my team. They aren't in the headspace to think long term. They're thinking, how do I survive the next 30 days? When you mislabel their desires and don't talk enough about the urgency they have, you'll create amazing content and you'll get some engagement or interest, but you won't get the sales calls on your calendar because you're only speaking to their future self, not their current situation. So instead of saying, let's create a long-term sustainable system, you'll want to say, here's how to hit this 5K month without feeling overwhelmed. The difference is in meeting them where they are right now. Once they feel heard, you can guide them towards that bigger picture, but you need to be able to say like, hey, I can solve your today problem, and I can also paint you a picture of what your future can look like. You need both together. It's not that long-term desires aren't valuable. They are. You need to talk about the dream and the future that people want. But human nature is to think about what's right in front right now. And mislabeling their desires and either not getting their dream right at all or only talking about the long-term dream is a good way to end up as someone people think would be nice to work with someday, but not today. And your goal as a business owner is to create marketing that has people saying, oh, that's what I need today. How do I get started working together right now? So as you're thinking to yourself, how can I incorporate this into my business? I want you to start thinking about the urgent desires that your client has. What are they Googling right now? What is keeping them up at night? That's the language that you want to have in your marketing content. All right. So we went over the 3 things that you might be mislabeling. So let's recap that quickly. If you've been feeling like your messaging isn't connecting the way it should, it's possible you're mislabeling one of these 3 things: your client's pain points, their qualifications, or their desires. If you're mislabeling their pain points, your client won't realize that you're speaking to them. If you're mislabeling their qualifications, they might think that they aren't a good fit for what you offer. And if you're mislabeling their desires, they might not feel like what you're offering speaks to what they need right now. So here's what I want you to do today after listening to this. I want you to review your last few posts or pieces of content. Are you describing your client's pain points in their words and not yours? Next, I want you to check how you're positioning your clients. Are you acknowledging how they see themselves, or are you just assuming that they'll align with how you view them? And lastly, I want you to take a look at how you're speaking to your people's desires. Are you focusing on what's urgent and relevant for them in the moment, or are you just painting them a nice picture that they think, that'll be nice to get to one day? When you start taking these things into consideration as you create your content, you'll see the results just by doing this. Your people will recognize themselves in your content and know that you're the coach or the service provider that they have been looking for. I've seen it with my one-on-one clients. I've had clients where there was no change in niche, no offer change. We simply worked together and took a deeper look at how her clients describe themselves. We looked at how they described their problems, and we looked at how they described their dreams for themselves and their urgent problems that are keeping them up at night. That alone was more than enough to write stronger launch emails that filled a group program. That alone was enough to create content that got people excited for a one-on-one program. Now, mislabeling your client's pain points, their qualifications, or desires is the difference between getting a few more followers on Instagram and getting clients who are ready to work with you today, all because your content is so much clearer. I've just told you how easy it is for people to overlook your message, even if you are the perfect coach for them. If your content isn't connecting, it's time to stop guessing and start speaking your client's language. You don't want another month to go by and you're wondering what's wrong with your marketing or why your messaging isn't landing the way that it should. Because the truth is, you are the right coach. And I don't want you missing out on clients simply because of miscommunication. If you're ready to create content that instantly resonates with people who need to work with you right now, then my one-on-one marketing and messaging program is exactly what you need. We'll work together to pinpoint exactly what is happening with your messaging and realign it with how your clients see themselves and what they're craving, and turn it into content that's going to attract all of the dream clients that you want. No more wondering why your audience isn't converting. No more missed opportunities to work with amazing clients. If you're ready to create content that makes people think, oof, this is exactly what I need, book a call to work with me today. Use the link in the show notes or DM me on Instagram if you want to start attracting clients who know that they need to work with you right now. All right, until next time, I'll talk to you soon. If you want more marketing that works right in your inbox, head to the show notes and sign up for the email list. You'll be the first to know how you can work with me on mastering your marketing.